I suspect that there's a special kind of smugness that comes with owning a Lexus, because they really are fantastically well-built cars, and not everybody knows that, especially in Great Britain, where Lexus is kind of forgotten about. Everybody remembers the German marques, they know BMW, Mercedes, Audi, but it only seems to be old people that drive Lexus. Everywhere else in the world, they're actually really, really popular cars. In America, Lexus is seen as a very top-class luxury car, but those that do have them, and those that have driven them, they know that these cars are built with a very specific care and attention. Even this, what was the entry-level Lexus back in 2005 when it came out, the IS, it was the small car, it wasn't massively expensive. It's a compact saloon car designed to go up against cars like the BMW 3 Series, the Mercedes C-Class. It's rear-wheel drive. It's an executive motorway cruiser, but it's also supposed to be interesting to drive and fun in the corners. So it's a simple recipe, a recipe that's long since been lost, it seems, in the world of cars, but it's a 3-box saloon, an engine at the front, space for people in the middle, luggage in the back, and a nice, powerful engine up front. So they had to make it luxurious and smooth and refined, but they also needed to make it sporty, because it needs to go up against the BMW as well as the Mercedes. So they've done that in a very Japanese way, especially with the styling, because it is a very kind of purposeful, sporty looking car, but in only the way that the Japanese could design it. It's got that kind of origami folded paper look to it. I think a very handsome car. From some angles, like from the rear 3/4, the front of the bonnet, it's really strange. It kind of like disappears off down to nothing. Yeah, a good, solid, chunky looking car, and a design that I think has aged really well. It still looks very modern. It's hard to believe this car is 20 years old in its design. I'm a big fan of this interior, this dashboard. The actual main bulk of the dashboard seems to be this one massive piece of plastic which has been like, I don't know, it feels like it's been carved out of a huge block. The climate control infotainment has been replaced in this car with a big touchscreen. You would have obviously had a bit more of a basic radio there instead of the touchscreen. The dials are very cool looking, very modern, especially for its time. The way they're lit up, like the little thin needles that are very sort of accurate and give you that feeling that you're driving something of precision. So to manoeuvre this car, you know, around town and stuff, it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's got a bit of a big blind spot at the back in the rear C-pillar. That's only at certain angles. And then on the positive side, it's got a really good turning circle. You can swing it round in a very tight space, and it's surprisingly good. And I think that rear-wheel drive helps with that. It's a very refined car at cruising speeds. You do have obviously the tyre noise, but there's very little wind noise. I can't hear anything bouncing off of the pillars or the outside of the car. Obviously the interior is really well built, so there's nothing creaking or rattling in here. So put yourself in mind of someone who would have been buying this car brand new back in 2005. You'd be in the Lexus dealership, which already you'd be feeling good because famously the Lexus dealers are friendly and they look after you. You'd probably have a nice little latte in hand while they talk you through the various options you've got. Would Sir like petrol or diesel? And you're like, well, what size of engine and stuff? And it's like, no, petrol or diesel. Okay, I'll have petrol. And like, okay, that's the IS 250, that's 2.5 litre V6, and that's your petrol engine. I will say in the rest of the world, people watching this, there were other options, and it's not fair that we didn't get them because you have the IS 300 and the IS 350 as well. And then it was, would Sir like lots of equipment or even more equipment? As standard, this car came with all sorts of good stuff on it. Keyless entry is standard, which in 2005, I mean, what did you even get keyless entry on back then? Probably just S-classes and LS, and so the key just stays in your pocket. You never actually really need to use it. You just lock the car by pressing the button on the door. It came with 8 airbags as standard, 2 for your knees, 1 for the passenger, 1 for the driver, so even your knees are protected in an accident. Then if you selected the automatic gearbox, it came with paddle shift as standard, and that's again something that you had to fork out loads for with like sports packages and things in the German cars. That is something that must have had BMW people absolutely scratching their heads, because I mean, what do you mean you don't have to spec the 13-speaker sound system? You mean it just comes with it? But what about the basic 3 Series with the 4 speakers and, if you're lucky, a little dial that changes the heat? We need to charge for everything. And you know, of course, there were many things that you could add to this car. Things like reversing cameras and touchscreen sat-nav and radar-guided cruise control. Oh, and by the way, it does have standard cruise control as standard. This car's got heated and ventilated seats, which that's a first for me, ventilated seats, and I always wondered how they worked, and I've been trying them in this car, and all those little pinholes in the seat, that's where the cooler air comes firing up from. Yeah, you're not going to end up with a sweaty backside in this car in summer. the seats are very adjustable. You've got like electrically controlled everything, lumbar support and back and forward and up and down, and not the most sporty. I do find myself kind of sliding around in them a bit. Not that you'll ever use it, but the CD player, it's got a nice little attention to detail in that the lights that kind of guide the CD in like a plane, they're green when there's no CD in there, and it's ready to receive one. And when you eject the CD, it's red on the sides. The handbrake, which isn't a handbrake, it's a parking brake because it's operated by your foot, is quite strange. If you're used to driving old Mercs or potentially other Toyotas of this time, yes, you'll know that pedal, but you apply it with your foot, but you also take it off again with your foot. And that's totally fine in an automatic car, but in a manual car, well, then you've got 4 pedals to deal with, and that can be quite awkward when you're doing a hill start. It's got a nice big cubby here under a lovely sliding mechanism. You've got a cup holder hiding in there as well, and then another cup holder under this kind of like soft damped panel glove box, which is kind of average size, not massive. You've got these door pockets which actually pop out, so you can like hide them away when you don't need them, and then if you need to fit a bottle or anything bigger in there, you can just pull them out, which is quite cool. And then the boot, it's not actually as big as some of its rivals, but it looks all right. It looks like you can fit enough stuff in there. It's obviously got that same problem that all saloons have of having small slot to kind of get things in. But as for the back, well, what do you think of it, backseat JJ? Yeah, it's just about all right for me. If I sit up properly, my head's touching the roof, and I've just got a slight bit of extra space in front of my knees, but it's quite tight. This is probably why you don't see many IS250s as taxis, that and the fuel economy. Up here I've got grab handles, which are like no grab handle I've ever seen, and I am a grab handle connoisseur, because this thing, it kind of comes down as well as out, and it's all obviously very damped and soft. You've got little coat hooks up here for your executive business shirt or polo neck. I've got ventilation back here, I've got a little ashtray and pockets on the back of the seats. It's technically a 5-seater, this car, but the middle seat is not very comfortable, and there's a massive like transmission tunnel by your feet as well, so I would say really 4-seater, this car. I've got an armrest with lots of space in it, and weirdly this area that actually fits a modern smartphone. Now this car came out in 2005 and the iPhone did not exist until 2007, so how they knew this was a thing, I don't know. The seats don't fold down, but there is a ski hatch to fit your skis or your golf bags. And yeah, that's the back of the Lexus IS, so back to you, JJ. All right, cheers, mate. So the 2.5 V6, it's not the fastest, I will say. 0 to 60 on paper is 8.1 seconds, and it doesn't feel like a quick car. It doesn't like shove you back in your seat. You know, the engine's very quiet. It's very buttery smooth, and I think the reason that there's that 2.5 litre engine under the bonnet is not for performance really so much as the smoothness. You can tell that Lexus were going for a sort of sporty suspension, so it has got that little bit of a firm edge to it, but it's by no means uncomfortable. On some surfaces, as you cruise along at kind of 50 miles an hour, I think it's just not quite as well damped as BMWs and Mercs. It feels a little bit more unsettled. It takes a second to figure itself out after you've been over a bit of a lumpy road. I think I would recommend the automatic for this car. This gearbox is very smooth. You don't, when it's in normal auto mode, you just don't even know what it's doing. You can't hear the engine, you can't hear it change, you can't feel it change. So I was saying it wasn't that quick, but actually where it is quite fast is the old traffic light Grand Prix. So from a standing start with the automatic gearbox, because it changes gear so fast, you'd be doing 30 miles an hour in no time at all, and it just effortlessly kind of accelerates you there. So back in the day, the journalists were a little bit disparaging with how this car handled, and I think I can't really see what they were getting at, because it's not a BMW, it's not got that handling poise and balance that a BMW has, but it's perfectly great. It's enjoyable to put around the corners, the steering is direct, it grips really well, it doesn't feel like a particularly massively heavy car when you chuck it into the bends. It's definitely better to drive than I think the Mercedes of the time, and probably the Audis as well, with it being rear-wheel drive. That sleek sporty body does actually have a benefit, and that is that the drag coefficient of this car is only 0.28, which is really impressive. My super sleek eco car, the Audi A2, I believe that CD is 0.29, so this is actually better than that car, which was designed for fuel economy. And it means that this car, whilst it is an automatic with a big engine, isn't absolute worst car ever on fuel. You know, you can get 40 miles per gallon on a very good long run, and you might average 30 in it. It's all right. And if you really want economy, you did have the diesels. The diesel engine, it actually wasn't quite as good as the German rivals. The economy was never quite there, but it's definitely better than the petrol. So of course it kind of goes without saying with Lexus, with Lexi, that they are very reliable cars, and it is still the case with this IS, that it is known to be a dependable car. There are of course things that can go wrong, and when they do, they might be a little bit more expensive to repair than some cars. Cyan, the owner, thank you very much for lending me this car, Cyan. The only problems he's had is stuck rear calipers, which is apparently a fairly common issue with this car, and he had the exhaust fall off, or part of the exhaust fall off, but I think that's just down to its age really. This car's coming up to 20 years old now, it probably rotted through. So it's definitely a turtleneck car, this car. In fact, it's probably one of the most turtleneck cars out there, this side of a Saab, I think. I feel at home in it, wearing this top. And obviously, as I've said before, turtleneck car means a JJ car. So the Lexus IS, it's definitely a car that I would like to own. I mean, for the longest time in the past, I've looked at these cars and always thought about buying one, and today's actually the first time I've ever got to actually drive one, and it's not been a disappointment at all. I've really enjoyed my time with it. And if you've got one or you are thinking of buying one, please do comment below. Let me know what do you think of the car, what you know, or which one are you looking to buy. And yeah, cheers, bye.